Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel. Let me ask you something deeply honest. Have you ever told a woman, "You're beautiful," and watched her smile politely but nothing more happened? Maybe you felt proud of yourself for noticing her looks. Maybe you thought you said the right thing. But deep down something didn't shift. You didn't stir her soul. You didn't make her pause. You didn't awaken that primal desire where she leans closer, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, erotically. Because let's be clear, admiration is not seduction. And attraction, real attraction, the kind that makes a woman ache to feel you, to understand you, to open her world to you, has almost nothing to do with what's on the surface. Telling a woman she's beautiful is like offering her a glass of water when she's craving fire. In this video, I'm going to show you something different, something so few men truly understand. We'll talk about what to say instead, how to speak into the part of her that's been starving to be seen, not just praised, but penetrated with presence. You won't be memorizing cheesy pickup lines. No, you'll be learning how to speak to a woman in a way that touches her on a level that makes her want you, not because of what you look like or what you have, but because of the depth of your presence, because of the way you see her soul, and make her want to surrender. Let's begin with a confession. One that's been repeated in whispers between friends, behind closed doors, in the silent sighs of lonely men. You tell her she's beautiful. You think you've scored points. Maybe her lips curl into a smile, her eyes flutter with appreciation. But the moment ends, it doesn't linger. It doesn't melt her. It doesn't move her in the way you hoped it would. She thanks you and forgets you. Here's why. Beautiful is safe. It's surface level. It's expected. Every man says it, and because every man says it, it no longer means anything. It's become a placeholder for real intimacy, a shortcut men use to appear romantic without doing the work of truly seeing a woman. But a woman doesn't want to be seen like everyone else sees her. She wants to be seen in the way only you can see her. That's where everything begins to change. You see, we live in a world that over-celebrates appearances but undernourishes connection. We've all become intoxicated with images, filters, validation, hearts on a screen, but none of that creates real desire. None of it makes a woman feel undone by your words. And when a woman doesn't feel, she doesn't want. So what do you say instead? You speak to her aliveness. You speak to the part of her that nobody else notices. Not her lips, not her curves, not her hair, but the things she hides in the quiet spaces between her confidence and her fear. That is where the real woman lives. And when you speak to that part of her, you don't just compliment her, you awaken her. Let me show you how. The next time you feel the urge to say, "You're beautiful," pause, feel her. Look at her, not with your eyes, but with your awareness. Maybe she's laughing, but there's a tiny flicker of tension around her eyes. Maybe she's calm, but her hands fidget beneath the table. Maybe she's speaking with clarity, but something in her voice is holding back a storm. And then you name it, gently, boldly, honestly. You say something like, "There's something about the way you light up when you talk about your dreams. It makes me feel like the world is still full of wonder." Or, "You hold so much strength in your stillness. I can see the way you carry others, even when no one's watching." That's not a pickup line. That's a portal. That's what makes a woman pause, take a breath, and feel seen, not just flattered. That's what pulls her out of the noise of the world and into the quiet, magnetic tension that exists between your words and her body. Because let's face it, she doesn't want just your attention. She wants your intention. She wants to feel like your presence can hold her chaos. That your masculinity isn't performative, it's grounded, unshakable, not loud but deep. The kind of depth that makes her want to curl up into your energy, not because you told her she's beautiful, but because you noticed her humanity. So many men think desire is about having the perfect line or the perfect look. But women, especially mature women, evolved women, women who have lived and lost and risen again, they crave depth. They crave the man who can notice the tremble beneath the smile, the heat behind the silence, the storm inside the stillness. And the man who can speak to that, he doesn't have to chase, he doesn't have to beg, he doesn't even have to ask. She will want him. Crave him, invite him inside, not just her body, but her mind, her mystery, her sacredness. Because he doesn't just touch her skin, he touches her soul. You don't need to say, "You're beautiful." You need to say, "I feel your fire even when you hide it." Or, "There's a softness in you that makes me want to stay longer." That's not game, that's presence. That's real masculinity meeting real feminine energy. And when that happens, the entire dynamic changes. No longer are you two strangers in performance. You become an invitation, a pulse, a current, and suddenly she's no longer guarded, she's open, not because you asked her to be, but because you made her feel safe enough to unfold. You want her to want you inside her. Then speak to the part of her that no one else is speaking to. See her, not as a collection of features, but as a constellation of emotions. Her beauty is a detail, her essence is the story. That's what she wants you to read. That's what she's secretly longing for you to understand. And here's the truth, that most men miss attraction is not built in the words you say, it's built in the way you say them. In your pace, in your breath, in your grounded stillness. It's built in the subtle, unspoken cues that tell her you're not trying to impress her, you're trying to connect with her. And when you do that, you bypass the part of her that's been trained to resist and awaken the part of her that's wired to receive. So slow down, drop the performance, step into your presence, and begin to speak from a place that's not desperate for approval, but rooted in desire. Not the kind of desire that takes, but the kind that sees. The kind that says, I'm not here to win you, I'm here to witness you. And when you speak like that, when your voice becomes a mirror to the most sacred, hidden places inside her, she won't just want to be near you, she will want to open to you entirely, because now she feels safe to be seen. So now you've begun to see the shift. You've started to realize that women don't respond to admiration the way we've been taught to believe. They don't melt from being told what they already hear 100 times a week. They open when they are felt, when they are understood. When your words reach into the quiet parts of them that feel untouched by the noise of the world. And I want you to notice something very important. The moment you stop seeking her approval and start offering your presence, everything changes. Because when a man is present, he listens without rushing, he notices without needing, and he speaks with precision, not to fill the space, but to deepen it. Let me tell you a story. I once sat with a man who was in love with a woman who seemed completely uninterested in him. She was polite, she was sweet, but she was distant. I tell her she's gorgeous all the time. He told me, I don't know why it's not working. So I asked him, when was the last time you told her something no one else has ever told her? He paused. That's when the silence revealed the truth. He hadn't seen her. He had admired her, yes, desired her, worshipped her, even, but he hadn't really seen her. So I told him this, tell her something true, something bold, something that requires you to risk being misunderstood, but say it from your center. So the next time he saw her, he didn't comment on her dress or her hair. He looked her in the eye and said, you know, sometimes it feels like you're pretending not to need anyone, but I think there's a part of you that's dying to be held. And do you know what happened? She didn't speak right away. She stared at him. She blinked. Her lips parted, but because of seduction, because of shock. She felt seen, not seduced, seen. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifted. She didn't lean away. She leaned in. Because now it wasn't about beauty, it was about truth. This is what you must understand if you want to be the man she can't forget. Women want truth more than they want compliments. They want to be recognized in the places they've hidden from the world. And they want you to go there, not with arrogance, but with reverence. So what do you say instead of, you're beautiful? You say the thing that reflects back what's real. You say, there's a quiet sadness behind your smile that tells me you've loved deeply before. Or you say, I don't know what you've been through, but there's a grace in the way you carry yourself that makes me want to understand you, not just touch you. And here's the magic. When you say these things from a grounded place, not only do you speak to a desire, you activate it. Because women don't fall for the man who knows what to say. They fall for the man who knows how to see. But that kind of sight requires something rare. It requires presence, stillness, curiosity. Most men are so busy trying to perform that they miss the moment entirely. They try to do something to a woman instead of simply being with her. But when you slow down, when you really slow down, and you breathe with her, not just talk to her, you start to feel things most people miss. The subtle shifts in her voice, the glance she gives and then takes back, the way her fingers trace the edge of her glass while her eyes avoid yours. That is where the seduction lives, not in the words, in the attention, in the energy between you and her that says, I'm not here to take anything from you, I'm here to discover you. And let me be clear, this is not about manipulating her emotions. This is about honoring them. Because the feminine wants to be ravished, yes, but not by force, by reverence. She wants to feel like her complexity is not a burden, but a beauty. That her emotional depth doesn't scare you, it intrigues you. That her wildness, her confusion, her mood swings, her dreams, her fears, they don't push you away, they pull you closer. So how do you respond to all of that without shrinking? You become a container. You become the calm in her chaos. You don't flinch. You don't correct. You don't rush to fix. You hold her with your silence, with your presence, with your unapologetic stillness. Because the truth is, the man who can witness a woman in her raw, unfiltered state without needing her to change, that man becomes unforgettable. Not because he's perfect, but because he's real. Because he offers something most women never receive: safety without control. Attention without agenda. You don't have to touch her to make her feel you. You don't have to say much to leave her breathless. You just have to be the one man in the room who isn't performing, who isn't chasing, who isn't desperate. You have to be the one who listens with his entire body, who speaks with clarity, who moves with purpose. That's the man she wants inside her, not just in a physical sense, but emotionally, spiritually, soulfully. She wants to be filled, yes, but not just by sensation, by connection. So the next time you feel the impulse to compliment her appearance, stop, take a breath, and ask yourself, what do I feel right now that's deeper than attraction? What is she inviting me to see that she doesn't even know she's showing? And then speak to that. Because when a man can name what a woman doesn't have words for, she opens, she softens, She leans in, not because he's clever, but because he's present, because he has the courage to say what no one else dares to say. I see you, even here, even now, even when you're hiding. And once she knows that you can see her like that, there is no going back. There is a sacred moment that happens when a woman realizes a man isn't just noticing her, but holding her. Not physically, not yet, but energetically. It's in the way he stays when others would change the subject. It's in the way his eyes remain soft when her emotions turn sharp. It's in the way he doesn't recoil when she shows him something that isn't polished. And in that moment, something inside her shifts, a door opens. And this is what most men miss. They think she's testing them, when in truth, she's revealing herself. She's offering him a glimpse of her inner world. Not the curated version, but the one that aches and dreams and fears being too much. And she's watching to see, will he stay? Will he still want her? Will he still want to enter? Desire, you see, is not built in the performance. It's built in the permission to be real, to be raw. And for her, that permission only comes when she feels she won't be punished for it. A woman wants to be loved in the places she's convinced are unlovable. That's where the deepest longing lies. Not in the hair she curled or the dress she chose. It's in the shadow she carries, hoping someone might choose her there too. And when you, as a man, can meet her in that space, not to rescue her, not to analyze her, but to simply be with her, something erotic awakens. Not the surface eroticism of lust, but the deeper one, the surrender of a woman who finally feels she doesn't need to hide. She wants you to want her when she's messy. She wants you to crave her when she's quiet. She wants to know that your desire isn't conditional, it's curious. That it stays when the fantasy ends and the truth begins. And here's the real secret: most men never get there because they're too focused on getting somewhere. They rush, they push, they chase a moment instead of building a connection. But the man who slows down, who allows her to be without demand or pressure or performance, that man creates the space where her longing can bloom. You say you want her to want you inside her, I believe you. But ask yourself, which part of you do you want her to invite? The part that flatters or the part that witnesses? Because the truth is, she doesn't want just a man in her bed. She wants a man in her life. A man who can sit with the full spectrum of who she is. Not just the pleasure, but the pain. Not just the yes, but the maybe. Not just the seduction, but the softness. That kind of man doesn't just say, you're beautiful. He says, you're safe with me. He doesn't need to impress her. His attention is the impression. His presence is the gift. He touches her before he ever lays a hand on her. And when he finally does, it's not just skin against skin, it's soul against soul. And she feels it, all of it, in her chest, in her breath, in the way her body involuntarily leans toward him when he speaks. Because it's not what he says, it's the energy behind the words, the calm behind the gaze, the certainty behind the silence. So what does that mean for you? It means you don't need better lines. You need deeper presence. It means you don't need to figure her out. You need to feel her. It means that every moment is an opportunity, not to impress, but to invite. Invite her into something rare, something rich, something that cannot be faked, your grounded masculinity. When a man lives in that space, a woman will move mountains to feel him. She will cross emotional deserts to stand in his oasis, because he offers what no performance can: emotional safety that breeds physical surrender. And she will want you, not because of what you say to her beauty, but because of what you awaken in her essence. I've watched it happen time and time again. The quiet man in the room, the one who doesn't compete, doesn't chase, doesn't flaunt. But when he speaks, women listen. When he leans in, they breathe deeper. When he sees them, they open. Not because he's trying to seduce them, but because he's already seduced by their soul. That's the paradox. The men who stop chasing beauty and start honoring depth become the most desired, because a woman wants to be chosen. Yes, but not just for her image, for her intensity, her complexity, her fullness. And when she feels that kind of reverence from you, she doesn't just want to give you her body, she wants to give you her world. And in the end, isn't that what we all crave? Not just to be wanted, but to be welcomed. Not just to be touched, but to be truly felt. So stop saying she's beautiful. Start saying what you actually feel. Speak the truth that lives behind your tongue. Let your voice become a mirror, not to flatter her ego, but to reflect her soul. Let your presence be so steady, so unwavering, so rich in attention that she forgets every compliment she's ever heard, except yours. Not because it was better, but because it was real. By now you may have started to feel it, not just in your mind, but in your body, that gentle, almost unfamiliar sense of calm power. Not the kind that puffs your chest or sharpens your tone. No, I'm talking about the kind of power that lives in stillness, in observation, in patience. The kind of power that makes a woman lean closer, not because she was chased, but because she felt chosen. You see, a woman doesn't surrender to a man who wants her. She surrenders to a man who knows her. And knowing her begins when you start listening for what's not being said. That moment when she hesitates before she laughs. That sigh she lets out when no one is looking. That story she tells you for the third time. Not because she forgot, but because she wants you to hear something she doesn't know how to say. You have to listen, not with your ears, but with your instincts. with the same part of you that reads energy when words fail. And that, my dear friend, is where the dance begins. That's where attraction stops being a performance and becomes a relationship between your awareness and her emotional landscape. Now here's something you may not have been told. Women are not waiting for a perfect man. They're waiting for a man who can handle their emotional weather, their summer heat, their winter withdrawal, their unexpected rains and their bright, reckless joy. And if you flinch at her storm, she will never invite you into her stillness. But if you stay rooted, if you stay present, if you let her feel you watching not with judgment, but with fascination, she will start to crave you. Because most men leave when things get intense, but the rare man, the one who doesn't try to escape, fix or quiet her, he becomes the man she dreams about. He becomes the one her body remembers, the one her soul softens for, the one she lets in deeper than anyone else before. And you don't get there by being impressive. You get there by being available, emotionally, psychologically, energetically. You let her see that you can handle all of her, not just the pleasure, not just the beauty, not just the smile for Instagram, but the tears, the doubts, the fire. And when you do that, she starts to bloom. She shows you sides of herself she never shows the world, not because you asked, but because you earned it. This is the man who gets the invite into her mystery. This is the man who, without rushing, finds himself undressing not just her body, but her mind, her walls, her resistance, slowly, tenderly, unapologetically, because she wants to be opened, not taken. And that difference is everything. You don't take her attention, you hold it. You don't take her time, you fill it. You don't take her love, you rise to meet it. And in that kind of relationship, you don't chase physical intimacy. It comes to you naturally, organically, like a river finding its way back to the ocean. When you speak to a woman's inner world, her outer world follows. She starts texting first. She starts leaning into you. She starts imagining you beside her, not because of what you said to her looks, but because of what you made her feel about herself. Let me ask you something. When you leave the room, does she feel more alive or less? When she thinks about your last conversation, does she feel more seen, more understood, or more confused? Because you are not trying to impress her. You are trying to leave an imprint. And you do that by slowing down, by being curious, by replacing generic compliments with intentional language. Instead of saying, "You look amazing tonight," say, "There's something in your energy tonight that feels untamed. I don't know what changed, but I like it." Instead of, "You're so hot," say, "There's a confidence in your silence that makes me want to know what you're not saying." And instead of, "I want you," say, "The more I see you, the more I want to know every version of you." Can you feel the difference? Can you feel the depth of that shift? Because now she's not just reacting, she's feeling. Her mind is slowing down. Her guard is dropping. Her breath is deepening. And this is when she starts to want you, not just as a man, but as a space, as a feeling, as an experience. That's the power of presence. That's the magic of masculine energy that is safe, not suffocating. That is bold, not aggressive. That is grounded, not needy. And once she's tasted that, she will crave it over and over again. Because the world exhausts her, and when you show up like this, you become the place she comes to rest, to exhale, to melt. Not because you gave her attention, but because you gave her truth. And in a world full of noise, truth is irresistible. And now we arrive at the moment where all of this, everything we've explored together, starts to live inside you, not as theory, not as technique, but as truth. Because this isn't a trick. It's not a seductive spell to cast. It's a return to something ancient, something primal, something you've always known but may have forgotten in the noise of performance and pressure. You were not born to impress women. You were born to meet them. Not on the surface, not in roles, but in the trembling, tender, fiery center where two truths collide, hers and yours. And the invitation, the real invitation, is not just for her to open. It's for you to rise. And that, my dear friend, is the most seductive thing of all, because a woman does not want a man who needs her to feel worthy. She wants a man who already knows his worth and is willing to share it. A man who has met his own pain. A man who has walked through the burning cities of his past and still carries softness in his voice. A man who does not flinch when she cries, who does not shrink when she roars, who does not run when she reveals herself. She wants you, but only if you are real. She wants your presence more than your performance. She wants to feel your hands holding her hips. Yes, but she wants to feel your heart holding her story. She wants to hear your voice in her ear, but she also wants to feel your silence between words. That safe, grounded, masculine silence that says, "I'm here. All of me, and you don't have to be anything but yourself." This is what most men never learn. They spend their energy trying to be liked, to be charming, to be desirable, but none of those things guarantee connection. None of those things hold her, because the man who truly holds her holds himself first. So let me ask you, are you willing to be that man? Are you willing to stop reaching for her beauty like it's a prize to be won and start honoring her soul like it's a universe to explore? Are you willing to stand so firmly in your presence, in your awareness, in your stillness, that her most guarded parts begin to relax without even knowing why? Because when you show up like that, when your gaze softens, when your words slow, when your energy says you are safe with me, she will begin to open, not in performance, but in trust. And she will want you in every way, not because you chased her, but because you saw her, not because you said, "You're beautiful," but because you said, "I see the way you soften when you talk about your grandmother. I noticed you've been quieter today. That part of you speaks louder to me than your words. I don't know what you're holding, but I feel it and I'm here." That is the man she lets in. That is the man she imagines lying beside her in the morning light, not just because of how he touched her, but because of how he made her feel the moment he entered the room. This is what changes everything. So stop reaching for compliments that sound nice but fall flat. Speak to her story, speak to her ache, speak to her softness, speak to her storm, and do it from a place inside you that is real, that is unhurried, that is rooted, and she will feel it. Not just hear it, feel it, in her bones, in her belly, in the deepest, most intimate parts of her being. She will want you, she will invite you, and when she does, it won't be a transaction, it won't be a conquest, it won't be a victory, it will be a moment of surrender, a sacred permission, a woman saying, without words, "I trust you inside my body because you saw me before you touched me." And that is the kind of intimacy that reshapes a man, that softens his armor, that deepens his eyes, that reminds him that what he's always been seeking isn't domination or validation, it's connection. So if you want her to want you inside her, don't start with her body. Start with her world. Start with her thoughts. Start with her dreams. Start with her silence. And when you arrive there, fully, bravely, without agenda, you will find that her body is no longer a goal to be reached, but a gift that opens in the presence of reverence. You don't need better compliments. You don't need to say she's beautiful. You need to become the space where she finally feels safe to be seen. That's what she wants. That's what she craves. That's what will make her want you inside her in every way a woman can possibly want a man. And when that happens, you'll never need a pickup line again, because now you are the line, the story, the experience, the man who saw her and stayed. If this stirred something in you, if you felt seen as a man in a way that most content just doesn't reach, then this space is for you. I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's go deeper. Let's be the generation of men who rise into conscious, grounded, unapologetic presence. If you found value here, like the video, subscribe to this channel, share it with someone who needs to hear this. And remember, you don't need louder lines, you need deeper presence. She doesn't need to be told she's beautiful. She needs to be felt. Until next time, be bold, be kind, be fully you.